This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's going on, real MVPs? Welcome to another episode of What's Your Fantasy? I'm Brandon Swanson. Across from me, sitting at the table, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And we are back. It's going to be week 2 this Sunday in the NFL. Can you believe it? Week 1 is already passed. And
it was a fun week.
And I would say, what a week 1 it was. How incredible. Just some absolute awesome games to watch. Some teams that didn't show up. The Miami Dolphins are done for the season. They've been mathematically eliminated from contention.
Well, did you hear the funny thing about the Dolphins? Not only did they have 31 of their 53-man roster as brand new from last year, 9 players, I think it was 9 players after the game said, hey, trade me. I don't want to be a part of this dumpster fire.
Yeah, I saw that report.
So that would
that's
make
incredible.
What? If they trade them and bring new guys in, that's what? 40 players out of the 53. 13 players would be the same from last year.
It's a real tough squad that Brian Flores is working with over there. Real tough, that's for sure. But again, it was a really fun week 1. We're very excited for week 2, and we are excited to talk about it with you and hopefully give you some of our best thoughts and advice heading into week 2. But before we get started on all of that, definitely have to make mention to head over to patreon.com, become a patron. Just for $1 a month, you can help support this podcast or all podcasts at MVP and help us to continue to do great things that we're doing here on the podcast. And now, Ricky, I'm going to turn it over to you to break down how we did in our MVP league in week 1.
Oh, shit. You know what I actually have to do? I have to log into ESPN for that because I used to have us on our app, but I needed to have mine. So I got to pull ours up. Really? ESPN on my app. Give me a second. We'll get to that. I gotta finagle it because I have my personal one pulled up for ESPN.
Really? Come on, Ricky.
I have it. So here's the thing. I have it on my Google Chrome browser, but every time, let's see if this works. New tab did work. New tab work. So I got it. We lost, basically, is what we're getting to.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Ass interference or a money sign interference beat us. And
well, that's ass.
Yeah, that is ass. We lost 106.4 to 102.2.
Oh, dang.
Very close game. Plus, here's the kicker. So we had Jared Cook, who had 7 points, right? Well, TJ Hawkinson had 19. So we would have won. The Falcons had 2 points. Jets had 17. We would have won. Corey Davis, 0 points. Danny Amendola had 16. We would have won. We put one of those guys in. We win week 1.
Well, you're in charge of the lineup, so I don't know what you were doing.
I'm
kidding.
Jared Cook, I thought would have a better game. I did not expect the Falcons to. I was happy, skull, but I was not expecting the Falcons to shit the bed.
A big clunker
like they did. Plus, I know I was high on the Jets D, which was a good pickup by me.
Yes.
What is it with me and these just good fantasy draft moves? Humble brag. Hashtag humble brag. And then TJ Hawkinson, I didn't know what to expect from him from week 1.
But you know what? You know what's really...
And Danny Amendola. Did you expect him to have 16 points?
I didn't expect him to have 3 catches. So
yeah, 16 points.
But see, that's the exciting thing, though. I mean, you look at TJ Hawkinson. Clearly, he's going to be a focal point in this Detroit offense if Detroit is able to do anything going forward. Because, man, they were bad.
All we needed was also, you know what could have won us the game? One more touchdown by Tyrell Williams. Where I'm going into Monday night, I'm like, okay, he needs 21 points for us to win.
He did well.
He had 16 and a half, which is good, but Tyrell, instead of setting it up for Josh Jacobs to get a second touchdown, just tell Josh to take the play off. You're going to do it to get us more fantasy points. I know that's not how it works, but I wanted to win this week. On the other side, whose team is this? Coleman basically had Dalvin Cook, who had 24. Alshon had 17. And then he had the Niners D, which had 28 points. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, Lutz had a good game, but like he had a stinker in Jack Doyle, who only had 2 points. He had a stinker in Callan Ballage, who only had 1.2 points. He had Cam Newton, who had 5.4. So really, we got to hang our head high because not only did we put up 102 points, the only reason we lost is because Jameis Winston is a piece of ass, and we're going to talk about him later. But Jameis Winston is ass, and Dalvin Cook just had a really good game.
He had a great game.
That's why we lost.
He had a very, very good game. But I'm looking forward to week 2. I think that we'll bounce back.
And looking at the standing so far, I know week 1, we've got a lot of teams in our division. Is that our division? Which division are we? Yeah, in our division, the East, we have 5 teams that started out 1-0. And in the other division, the West, we have 4 teams that are 1-0. So obviously a total of 9 teams. 18 divided by 2 is 9. But we're in the division that has more teams that won this week, with 5 out of 4 getting the W.
All right, well, there you have it. We lost week 1, but don't worry, we'll bounce back. Week 2, but let's roll right into what we are talking about tonight, Ricky. And the first topic is we are talking about a guy who has been talked about for, months now, possibly at least one whole year, and that's Antonio Brown. And now there's a lot of stuff happening off the field with him, with everything from when he was at the end of his tenure in Pittsburgh to when he went to Oakland to when he left Oakland to now being with the Patriots, and now the allegations that come out that his former what was it? A personal trainer, or who was it? I think it was a trainer or something like that. That he sexually assaulted. They were throwing around the rape word last night, but we don't know if this is true, and we can't move forward as though it's true until we find and hear all the facts.
And of course, Drew Rosenhaus, his agent's going to come out like he did today. I think it was on Highly Questionable. It looks like. Based on the background, and obviously said it was false. So, I mean, until we get concrete things, I don't want to talk about it. I know they don't want to hear us talk about it.
And we're not.
But it could affect his fantasy, but that's if anything comes
That's
about.
if there's any suspensions or anything like that. And we're not talking about that today, but we're going to move forward as though he's going to be a playing member of the New England Patriots, the New England Patriots that took it to the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night.
Yeah, Big Ben looked bad. Big Ben looked bad.
This whole Steelers team looked bad. Nobody could catch a ball. They couldn't get any running room. Yes, it was awful. It was amazing for the Patriots. But my question is, Ricky, with Antonio Brown there, how much does that hurt the other guys that everyone was talking up, especially after that Sunday night game? Oh, these guys are all great. They did really well, but this performance, you may have to temper your expectations moving forward because, some of those deeper balls that might have gone to Josh Gordon or Philip Dorsett that were going to Philip Dorsett, those are now going to go to Antonio Brown. The one guy who I think probably stays the same is Julian Edelman, because he's always been that guy over the middle type of receiver. So I don't know if he'll be as affected, but Josh Gordon, Philip Dorsett, I think they do get affected. Their fantasy stock goes down a bit. I don't know how much, but Antonio Brown, clearly we see that at 42 years old, Tom Brady is saying, I'm not even close to being done yet. I want another ring. He takes it to the Pittsburgh Steelers at Gillette, and Tom Brady is a guy who's going to be able to get Antonio Brown the football. So AB goes from Ben Roethlisberger, where he had outstanding numbers, to the best quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. His numbers, one would assume, are going to be sky high through the roof.
Yeah, and the thing that I look at is, and I'm not saying that AB is going to do the exact same thing that Randy Moss did in 2007. Pardon me, my nose itched.
Yeah.
But the thing you got to look at, and I know people are going to say, well, Ricky, that was a different New England team. First off, Julian Edelman, if you own Julian Edelman, don't worry. Because I think the other thing we forget is that Rob Gronkowski's not on this team. Like, if Rob Gronkowski was on this team, then okay, if you're Julian Edelman, you might have to be scared a little bit, because then the pecking order would be AB, Gronk in any order, depending on the game, then Julian Edelman. But because Gronk's not there, AB, Julian Edelman, 1-2. And I look at that season in 2007, like, people want to talk about Randy Moss and the year that he had. Oh, he had 1,400 receiving yards and he had 23 touchdowns. Yes, he had more of the touchdowns that year, but you look at Wes Welker, he had actually more receptions than Randy Moss. So if you're in a PPR league, like, Wes Welker that year had 98 minus 112 would be 14.
98 minus 112 would be a negative number.
Well, the other way around. 112 minus 98 is what I'm looking at. That would be, 14? 14 more points that Wes Welker had that Randy Moss did. Now, the touchdowns play into that, but Wes Welker only had 8. But Wes Welker also that year had 1,100, almost 1,200 receiving yards. So there's a part of me that's like, okay, Julian Edelman is going to get his. And I know what people are saying. Look at this first game, though. Philip Dorsett, although he didn't have as many targets, Edelman had the most targets. Dorsett did the most with his 4 targets, 4 receptions, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was put in prime situation. Whereas Julian Edelman, 6 catches on 11 targets. He got more of the workload, but only 83 yards, didn't get any touchdowns. And that's, when it comes to Julian Edelman, that's what I think will hurt his fantasy stock, if anything. He's going to get his yards. He's still going to get the targets. He might actually have more receptions than AB at the end of the year, because now teams, when the Patriots come into town, they're going to double team or shade over to AB. We got to stop AB. Julian Edelman can now float. He can now go over the middle without having people, like, teams worry about, okay, where's Julian Edelman? Because everyone's going to focus on AB, AB's going to get his. But Julian Edelman can now maybe sneak past some teams where it's like, oh shit, we worried so much about AB, we lost where Julian Edelman was on the field. And oh, he was lined up in the slot instead of on the outside. Philip Dorsett, I think, is a wild card. Week 1 was just a good week for him. When AB's out there, I expect Dorsett to not have a 98-yard, 2-touchdown game every single game. And then there's the wild card, Josh Gordon, where Josh Gordon, 11 games last year, 720 yards. I think we could just see the same thing out of Josh Gordon, because in 2017, I almost spoke like a guy that we used to know way back, where he would say 20-7. But in 2007, you had Welker and Moss well over 1,000 yards. Dante Stallworth, about 697. And that's where I think our Josh Gordon fits in, where it goes AB, Julian Edelman, Josh Gordon. Your Josh Gordon is good enough, but he's probably not a 1 or 2 on your starters for fantasy. And then Philip Dorsett's your boom and bust. That's how I think AB adding to this team affects the Patriots, because they don't have Gronk out there at tight end.
Do you think that there's going to be any drop in production on the receiving end for a James White or a Rex Burkhead now? Or do you think that that's separate, since they're running backs and they play a little bit of a different role in the receiving game?
I mean, here, let's see what they did last year. Do you want last year, or do you want it week 1?
Let's do both.
So week 1, this past week, we had James White had 5 catches on 7 targets, 56 yards, no touchdowns. None of them had touchdowns. And then Burkhead had 8 targets, 5 catches for 41 yards. If we go back to last year's regular season, they kind of worked with White had 110 damn, 123 targets, 87 receptions. But that also, you got to think of like Josh Gordon. You would think, oh, Josh Gordon's the second receiver. He was getting worked in, only played 11 games, and really had the numbers of a third receiving threat out there. So I expect Josh Gordon to stay the same, like I said. Gronk didn't even have a Gronk-like year last year. And then Burkhead, only 20 targets, 14 catches, and then obviously Devlin, 17, 12 catches. He was the fullback for that team. Sony Michel had 7 receptions on 11 targets. I think they take a hit, but not completely, because yet again, I'm going to base it off of that 2007 year. You had Kevin Falk was the top running back, had 61 targets, 47 catches for about 383 yards. I think it's a little bit more than that, because you got to think that was a different NFL, where now more of these backs, they're not just pure runners. It's you got to be able to catch out of the backfield, and especially the Patriot backs now are different. Like Kevin Falk, you had him on that team because he was a runner first and then a catcher. Most of these guys like James White, Burkhead, they're not a 3-down, pounded up the middle, Mark Ingram kind of a running back. They're, hey, we can run it up the middle. We got Sony Michel. It kind of seems like Sony Michel's more of the runner for them. I could be wrong in that, but correct me, Patriot fans, Sean, if you think I'm wrong. In game 1, Michel had 15 attempts, only 14 yards, but 15 attempts.
Yeah, he was really ineffective week 1.
Burkhead did more, only on his 8 yards. But I think that's the thing, because these guys aren't pure rushers and aren't like that runner that you had in 2007 with Kevin Falk, they're not going to completely go away. But out of James White, he's not getting 123 targets this year. It ain't going to happen with AB out there.
So we've been talking targets, we've been talking receptions. How about touchdowns? Is Antonio Brown going to be taking touchdowns away from guys like Josh Gordon or even Julian Edelman? Is when we get down to the red zone, is it going to be strictly AB? Or can Josh Gordon owners also believe that, Brady's going to look for Gordon in the end zone as well?
It depends. And here's the question I want to ask you. Do you think by adding AB, this team has the same number that it had last year? Last year, 29 total receiving touchdowns. That may go up a little bit. Or do we see like what happened in 2017, where everyone excluding Randy Moss, and of course, Tom Brady had a fucking year that year. Broke the touchdowns in a single season record that year. They had 50 total touchdowns. 23 of those 50 were Randy Moss. Are we expecting that from Antonio Brown? I said Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, or are we just expecting like, maybe they're at 35 this year, and he adds like 8 touchdowns to their 29 that he had last year?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I could see if he's able to stay there for an entire season and he plays every single game and Tom Brady plays every single game, I could see him with 15 touchdowns. That's pretty impressive. And I think that there will still be scores and touchdowns to go around, but I do think that he vultures some of those away from some of the other guys on that team.
So I have to giggle really quick because I'm talking about 2007 so much that's why obviously my brain is thinking, that era, that's the last time. 2009? 2009 was the last time we saw Antonio Bryant in a NFL uniform. Do you remember that name? Do you remember who that is?
Antonio Bryant.
He was drafted by the Cowboys, but I knew him mostly as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer because that's who he ended his career with. He was with the Cowboys in 2002 to 2004, then the Browns for 2 years, the Niners for a year, took 2007 off, and then 2008, 2009 was with the Buccaneers. He had 30 touchdowns in his NFL career.
I don't know. I can't remember him right now.
I'll show you a picture when we're off the podcast. But
all right.
That's why I said his name, because I'm talking about 2007 in that era so much. So that's my brain was probably like Antonio. But yeah, Antonio Brown is going to affect this team. With me, I'm going to be pie in the sky. I think it's the other way around. Everyone gets their touches. Antonio Brown's just icing on the cake. The only question is he going to have Randy Moss-like numbers? I mean, I don't think so. I don't think he's going to have Randy Moss-like numbers, but maybe he has like 12 touchdowns. I don't even know. I got to look up how many he had last year.
I mean, I don't think that double-digit touchdowns is out of the question for this guy. I mean, he's very talented. When he is on the field and he's playing the sport that he loves, he's an extremely talented receiver. Mm-hmm. He's one of the best route runners. He's very good. So Tom Brady is the best and will put the ball in the exact right spot. He had 14 last year.
15.
14.
And
15.
It was a
15.
career high for him. It was a career high. The other highest was 13.
I think that he could repeat with 15 this year again. Okay. I really do. And we'll just see if he stays.
Then in my mind, if that's the case, if he has 15 again this year, then we're looking at about, I'm going to round up. So we're looking at about 45 touchdowns for Tom Brady this year, which Tom Brady owners are sitting there going, give me all those touchdowns. Yeah. I want them all. But yeah, I think he's going to add on to the touchdown number, not take away.
Well, welcome back, everybody, for part 2. As I'm sure you noticed, there was a bit of a jump cut. We had to just take a quick pause for outside reasons. But no, Becky, we're back.
You know what we should do? After the podcast is over, we should record like a 5-second or a 10-second like joke ad break. Like not how like Sean used to do when we broadcasted college games, where he'd be like, and that free throw brought to you by Forky's. If you want military grade spoons, go to Forky's. We should just do like a gag, like sport, like advertisement for us and slide it in there. So it's like a real break in the podcast.
Sure, if you want to.
Otherwise, it's just a jump cut. And they're like, whoa, what's going on? Audio listeners are like, it's the same.
yeah, they're not too
audio listeners are like, get back to the podcast.
So we are going to get back to the podcast, and the next guy we're talking about is a guy who is not quite near Tom Brady's status, and I'm going
garbage. You could say
read a tweet put out by Clay Travis on Sunday, and he said Jameis Winston with 3 interceptions today, 2 returned for touchdowns, including 1 to end the game. He's atrocious. When are the Bucs moving on? And he brings up a really good point. A point that our very own Ricky Widmer has been wondering for quite some time. And Ricky, the floor is yours.
So this was more of one where I know we're a fantasy podcast, but the onside kick is kind of discontinued at the moment, which, by the way, may be coming back very soon. I'll plug it here really quick. I did the PTP from my home studio this week, and it actually worked.
Yeah.
So, because of that, I'm probably just going to bring back the onside kick and do it by myself.
Awesome.
So news for football fans, your podcast is coming back. But with that aside, it's not back right now. So I need time to vent. And it's good that he's owned in 48% of ESPN leagues, which I don't know why. He should be owned in like 1% of ESPN leagues. Jameis Winston is garbage. I could throw a high school quarterback out there. Like, and I'm not even talking about like best in the state high school quarterback. I'm talking about like random, like come here on the south side, north side of Chicago, pick any random high school quarterback, any single one, plop them out there. And I know what Buck fans are going to be thinking, Ricky, that is some disrespect to our boy Jameis Winston. But did you watch him against the 49ers? Like, the more times I had to hear the broadcast group talk about decision making, and he's in year 5? Year 5 quarterbacks are not being like, man, his decision-making is not good. You want to know what kind of quarterbacks those are? Backups and people who aren't in the league anymore. This was atrocious week 1 to where if you have him in fantasy, drop him now. Drop him for anybody. Literally anybody is better to have on your roster. Pick up Garner Minshew. Minshew did great this week. I know he didn't have a lot of points, but he had enough. He had a really solid week 1. Start him over Jameis Winston if you have to. Have him as a backup over Jameis Winston if you have to. Bruce Arians has to make the decision, in my mind, right now, that, well, I'm drafting a quarterback this year. We're going to be top 5 because he sucks. I'm drafting a quarterback this year. He needs to go. And this was just number 1 out of many examples that are going to happen this year of why the Bucs need to move on from Jameis Winston. I am off my soapbox. Ooh, that felt good.
Yeah, I can
felt
tell.
Real good.
I can tell.
Well, I've been passionate about this for years, and Buck fans don't want to listen to me. Oh, it's not Jameis's fault. Oh, this guy's just a Jameis hater. When will you get it? He sucks. Move on. He's garbage. All right, I'm gonna let you talk, Brian. I'm not gonna go all Bernie Sanders here and take the floor and never let you talk. So go.
So Jameis's stats on Sunday, he went 20 of 36, 194 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, sacked 3 times. A quarterback rating of 8.6.
8.6! Keep going.
There was no one on this team who had more than 6 targets. Chris Godwin, 3 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown. His longest catch went for 28 yards. O.J. Howard had 4 catches for 32 yards. Mike Evans, 2 catches, 28 yards. Those 3 guys are supposed to be the stud receivers on this team, and none of them had more than 4 catches or 6 targets, and none of them had more than had even 60 yards receiving. This was supposed to be the year where Buccaneer fans were going to be able to be excited because Chris Godwin was going to break out. Mike Evans was going to continue to have a great year. Was going to continue to have a great career and have another great year. O.J. Howard was going to be healthy and he was going to have a great season. And Ricky, none of that happens, as you well know, if you don't have a strong quarterback. And Jameis, in the very first year, when Jameis and Tennessee, Marcus Mariota,
who
completely blanked.
I hitched my wagon. It was me on the Mariota bandwagon, Mark on the Winston bandwagon.
And I was very much on Marcus Mariota is going to be better as well. Mm-hmm. In year 1, it was Winston.
Well, Mariota's just been injured.
But in year 1, it was Winston.
Yeah.
For the most part, it had been Winston. And a lot of that has been because of injuries for Marcus Mariota. But Mariota's Tennessee Titans took it to the Cleveland Browns in week 1. Now, some people are saying maybe the Browns aren't as good as we all thought in the offseason. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm right there with them on that. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got embarrassed at home by the San Francisco 49ers, who looked equally as bad.
So I'm going to go ahead and answer a question that you're going to ask me later in the podcast. Can I do that?
Sure.
You know who you start this weekend? If you're sitting there going, man, my defense did not play well. I need to add somebody that's going to be a better defense for this week. Start the Carolina defense this week. Like, that's my number 1 main start. You start them. They are going to have a good week this week. And I know what you're saying. Ricky, they gave up a lot of points to that Rams team. First off, that Rams team is good. There's no joking with that Rams team. But to pull up their fantasy numbers from week 1, Carolina only had 4 fantasy points. I know what you're talking about. Only 1 sack, only 1 INT. They gave up 30 points. Brandon, this was a San Francisco defense that gave up, I know you know this because I told you before the podcast, How many interceptions did they have all of last year?
They had 2.
2! They had 3 in this game. Richard Sherman, how many years has he played in the NFL?
100.
A bunch. Has never had a pick six until this past week. Jameis Winston let it happen. And the one to Richard Sherman, it's like, how? What? Like, that was one where the commentators, I think it was wasn't Mark Schlereth in this one? I don't think it was. No, Schlereth was on the Arizona-Detroit game. Because I like hearing Mark Schlereth as a color commentator. But whoever the commentators were for the Buccaneer game, and who did, 49ers. I almost blanked on who they played. For that game, after he threw it, they're like, oh, well, his decision-making was really wrong on that one. Start Carolina's defense. They're going to bounce back this week. They're going to have a great week because they're playing Jameis Winston.
Now, Ricky, I've got to ask, was this just a bad week for Winston, or is this Jameis Winston?
This is Jameis Winston, and this is what I've been trying to tell everybody. When everyone, and by everyone I mean Buck fans, I get it. You're a fan of your team. You're gonna back your guy. Last year, when everybody wanted to have the pitchfork at Kirk Cousins, I was standing there pretty much front of the line. I think I was the only Vikings fan. It seemed like, hey guys, it's okay. It's only 1 year. I know. I get the comments he made week 17. You don't want to hear that from your quarterback. Sounds like he's making excuses. But guys, it's only year 1. It's going to get better than that. I get it. You're going to back your guy. Mainly because you have to. Like, if you're going to bash your guy, like, this is what I don't get about Chicago media and Chicago fans. It's like, oh, the first signs our quarterback does bad, we're going to throw him under the bandwagon. Why? Doesn't help his confidence. Doesn't help you. Just makes you hate your life even more because and I know I've been there with my teams where you're just stressing about your team and you're like, great, the season sucks. Unless you back your quarterback and then it's like, okay, I've got something to look forward to because I'm fighting for my guy. I get it. But he's garbage. He is garbage. He has been garbage. This isn't the first. It wasn't like Jameis Winston woke up and was like, hey, I'm going to be a bad quarterback. Like, he has not been, in my mind, a good quarterback because the first 2 years, he might have shown some promise, especially touchdown to interception ratio, 22-15. Then 28, cool, you threw more touchdowns, but he had 18 INTs. All right, those are getting up there. Then 19-11, 19-14. His decision-making's bad. He's in year 5. You got to see some improvement. And I've seen 0 improvement. He's got to go. End of the year, got to go. I know people are going to say Ricky is a week 1 overreaction, and Jameis Winston is going to make you eat your words week 2. He may, because that's what, apparently I have the magical matches in my pocket where I light a fire under a guy's ass, and he goes, oh, Ricky was talking about me. Better play well to put a foot in his mouth. So he may play well week 2. But I'm putting my money on he won't, and Carolina will have I'm going to say it, a great fantasy week this week. A great one. Not even a good one, a great one.
Going all in on the Carolina defense.
I'm pushing all those chips in.
Ricky, anything else you want to say on Jameis Winston? Do you think that there's any way that Chris Godwin, who had a touchdown, Mike Evans or O.J. Howard, those 3 big guys, is there any way that their season ends up being good? I know, again, it's some overreactions possibly. You don't believe you're overreacting, but it's going to be
I'm telling you what I've been telling you.
It's only going to be week 2. Are they going to have good seasons? Is Chris Godwin going to be able to have that breakout season? Does Mike Evans have over 1,000, 1,200 yards and 8 to 10 touchdowns? Does O.J. Howard have 800 to 900 yards and 7 touchdowns? Is that still possible even with a bad Jameis Winston, only because they'll have to be throwing a lot?
They're going to get some touchdowns, but the thing I want to say is there's only 2 ways that they have phenomenal seasons this year. One of them is not going to happen if they get traded. and neither Mike Evans or Godwin are going to get traded. Number 2 is if some point this year, Bruce Arians, who I respect the hell out of Bruce Arians as a coach, like the balls on that man to say, I'm going to challenge this. That guy interfered with my man. Bruce Arians is going down in the record books, by the way, the history books. Because when we look back, what was the first pass interference challenge flag that was successfully overturned? Do you know who it is?
No.
Bruce Arians. He challenged a play on the sideline, said that guy interfered with my guy, and he got the call overturned. So when we look back and we go, of the new rule, what was the first one? Bruce Arians threw that challenge flag. That's going to be a trivia question about 10 years down the line. So look for that one in your broadcasts in 2029. But no, the other thing is if Bruce Arians at some point in the year goes, well, this experiment's over. Hey, Blaine, get out there. And Yo Gabba Gabba, Blaine Gabbert, is the quarterback then of the Buccaneers. Not much better, but I mean, it's better than Jameis Winston in my mind. You're not going to win games, but at least he may get the ball to Evans and Godwin and won't throw it to the other team.
It's very true. Ricky, anything else you got to say?
No.
Anything else you need to get off your chest?
I just need to get on my soapbox for this one. I've been speaking about it's like I kind of feel like the guy that has been like speaking about an issue, you know, like the guy that's on the street corner. I'm holding the sign like, the devil is coming, repent. And I've been telling you this for years. And then finally the apocalypse comes and I go, see, I told you. That's how I feel right now.
I love it. That's great.
I'm the blind guy with the Bible going, Jameis Winston is garbage. Repent for ye interceptions. And then the apocalypse is coming in, like Tom Brady and the Four Horsemen. And I'm like, see, I told you. Winston is garbage. Repent. Repent. That's how I feel right now.
That's awesome. That's hysterical. So we're going to move into our final topic before we get into who we would add drop this week and then our start sits.
I hear Andrew Luck's not doing anything.
He's not.
If Bruce Arians could get him to come back to play for the Buccaneers. Ooh.
He's not.
Ooh, I know he's not. I just throw it out there.
Just to be you.
To be me.
But we're going to end our topics with another quarterback. And this time, a good quarterback, a quarterback that could be trending upwards in a big way, and that's Dak Prescott. An incredible, you're going from a guy who had a quarterback rating with Jameis Winston of 8.6 to a perfect quarterback rating of 158.3, and Dak Prescott over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, just great games played by Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, Randall Cobb, so many threats and targets. And then, of course, that guy Ezekiel Elliott, and he only, I think, had 13 carries. Ricky, Dak Prescott didn't look like a Dak Prescott who people nagged all last season and really haven't given a ton of credit the last couple of years. Dak Prescott looked like a man on a mission in a contract, not even a contract year. He's looking for a new contract. He's going to be getting it very soon. It's imminent, says Jerry Jones. Mm-hmm. But Dak Prescott, do you think that what we saw in week 1 against the New York Giants, who clearly have so far to go in getting their defense together, do you think Dak Prescott is going to have a career year this year with Dallas, or do you think that week 1 was maybe a fluke?
So here's my first thought while you were talking about Dak. I don't want to go back and listen to it because it's one of those things where you say an opinion and unlike a fine wine that like ages perfectly over time, you ever make comments on a podcast, like opinions about a player or something, and then years later you're like, that did not age well.
Unfortunately.
That did not. Like, that aged like a crypt keeper and not like Betty White at 98. But Mark and I did a podcast. When was this? This was 2 years ago, about 2 years ago. You want to know the title of the video? And I can tell you right now, my opinions in this video were not positive. Dak Prescott, ; all hype or the real deal. And I can tell you what side of that debate I was on at the time.
Hype.
I was on the all hype. Is Dak Prescott the second coming of Tom Brady? No, he's not. But is he a bad quarterback? No, he's not. And the thing that I actually think helps Dak Prescott is, yes, Jason Witten got most of the catches of the tight ends, but having two solid tight ends in Jason Witten and that Jarwin kid that's out there, I think he's a kid. I think he's a young player. Don't quote me on that. But like Jarwin had 3 catches. You also had Witten out there coming back. I'm all riled up on Jameis Winston. Like, Dak Prescott's not bad. It's just, what are we going to expect from him this year? Because game 1 was game 1. It was the Giants. Daniel Jones played in that game. That's how bad it got. Daniel Jones has already played in a game for the Giants, and it's only week 1.
And Daniel Jones looked better than Eli.
Yeah, until the interception that ended the game.
Whatever. The game was already over.
Look, we're not, and that's besides the point, but we're not looking for anything from Eli. This is the farewell season. Hey, Eli, you get one more before Daniel Jones maybe takes your job this year.
Do you think, hold up here for just a quick second. Mm-hmm. I know that we're talking right now on Dak Prescott, and I don't want to leave him because I do think there's plenty of good things to say about him, but could Eli Manning be traded this season?
No, Giants organization wouldn't do that to Eli. They respect the Mannings too much. That's what I think. Unless the Mannings, because I'm going to pull up Eli Manning's spot rack to look at his contract really quick. So Eli Manning with his contract, no, he doesn't get traded this year because it's a contract year for him. So they're going to let this be the farewell season because Daniel Jones is a rookie, and they knew they drafted him too high, so they don't want to throw him out there to the Wolves. They'll throw him out there in games where it's like, well, we're getting blown out by the Cowboys. All right, Daniel Jones, get in there. Because if he looks bad, people won't remember that. Like that interception that I harped on like 2 seconds ago, A, no one's going to remember it at the end of the season. B,
I didn't remember it now.
Well, B, people like you, oh, it didn't matter. That's what they're going to do. They're going to set Daniel Jones up for, hey, you can make a mistake and no one's going to harp on you for it. Because it was when we were down 35-0 and nobody cared about us at that point. So I feel like this is the farewell season for Eli Manning. And if he wants to go to another team or another team wants to give him a chance at the age of 38, he'll be 39 next year, then he can do that. Or he can just retire at the end of the year. I don't even think there's a team out there that is like, oh my God, we need to add 38-year-old Eli Manning to our roster. But getting back to Dak Prescott, this is going to sound very insensitive to Dak, but I have to say it. In the week 1 win, I kind of want to give more credit to Kellen Moore than I want to give to Dak Prescott. And the reason why is Dak Prescott played good, but I think this year, the reason why Dak could have a good year isn't because Dak's doing anything different. It's because he actually has an offensive system that's going to work. And the Cowboys may have an offensive system that's actually going to work. Like, looking at Twitter and seeing Cowboy fans praise Kellen Moore at the end of this game, like, he could be the saving grace to this offense as a coach. Like, that's the weird thing to say.
But how's that a weird thing to say? Because
Kellen Moore, to me, like, I never thought of him as old enough to be a coach yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get that the age thing, like, you've got McVay, who is like the youngest head coach. You've got Zach Taylor, who's also really young. But it's like Kellen Moore, maybe it's because it's like, I just remember him not too long ago playing for Boise State. Like, shouldn't he be a backup in the league a little bit more? Like, get his chops going before he goes into coaching?
Sure, but I mean, if you look at it, I mean, if Tony Romo left the booth today and went to go be a coach, he'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
He'd be outstanding.
Kellen Moore is, do you know how old Kellen Moore is?
No.
Do you want to take a guess?
30.
He is 30, right on the dot. He'll be 31 in 2020. Do you want to guess how old Sean McVay is? We've said it before on the podcast. Do you know how old Sean McVay is off the top of your head?
Is he the youngest coach?
Head coach.
Head coach in the 32.
Close. Do you want another guess? Or you just want me to tell you?
Yeah, just tell me.
33. Okay. He'll be 34 in January. And if you look at it, let's see. This is 2019. He got his first start as an assistant wide receivers coach with John Gruden in 2008. So 11 years ago? So wow. So Sean McVay started at 22 as the assistant wide receivers coach, didn't get his first offensive coordinator job until he was, 2018 to 14. That's about 6 years. So until he was 28. So Kellen Moore in the same boat then, I guess. I guess it's not that weird. Kellen Moore, next Sean McVay, watch. He'll be with the Cowboys for about 2 years, 3 years as their offensive coordinator. And then a team will hire him to be the head coach. Just watch.
And I think that, part of it is always going to be coaching, but part of it is also the player. I mean, you said you respect Bruce Arians a ton. Well, Bruce Arians is not a bad coach, and he can't get Jameis Winston to do almost anything right. So
you need both. And I'm not saying Dak is bad.
Take a look at what Dak Prescott did against the Giants. Now it's a Giants defense that's bad, but Dak was just smooth, connecting on all of his passes. I mean, dropping balls into guys right on the money, to Gallup, to Randall Cobb, to Amari Cooper. I mean, everything was just spot on the money. It was really a great showing by Dak Prescott. And it's one of those things where you're going, did Dak just turn the corner in this past offseason and in this game? And now he has the Washington Redskins this weekend where...
They didn't play too bad.
Well, they did when they gave up 330 yards and 3 touchdowns to Carson Wentz and lost the game.
Well, and here's the question I want to ask you. Was the Redskin defense really that good at the beginning of the game, or did the Eagles just need time to wake up?
The Eagles were flat.
Yeah.
They were absolutely flat.
I just thought, it's like once the Eagles started scoring, it's like, okay, this is the Eagle team I expected. They woke up. The thing with me, it's not going to be, Dak Prescott could have a special year this year. I think he's going to have the best year of his career this year. Not just because contract year equals guys say, hey, I'm going to play out of my shoes, but I feel like the marriage of Kellen Moore's offensive coordinator and his offensive system fits Dak Prescott. Like, that's what Dak has needed. Who's the offensive coordinator for this team? And who's going to make sure, because this year it's Kellen Moore. The last ones that he's had, like he had Scott Linehan last year. Then in 2017, it was Scott Linehan. Let's see, Scott Linehan, was he always the offensive coordinator for a while? Damn. I don't think Dak was there in 2014. So since 2015, it's been Scott Linehan's been their OC. And before that, it was Bill Callahan. I think that was before Dak Prescott. But I think that's why Dak Prescott's going to have his best year, is because instead of Scott Linehan, where I feel like his offensive system doesn't fit. And yeah, Dak was drafted when they drafted Dak, brought in Linehan as their OC, getting rid of Callahan. He just fits Kellen Moore's offensive system. And I think Kellen Moore understands what the league is like now because he was that kind of quarterback in college. Like the quarterback, like if Kellen Moore had a little bit more talent, I feel like he'd be a starter in the NFL. I just feel like Kellen Moore was that guy where it was like you had the talent to play in college and win at Boise State, but you were just one of those where it's like you didn't have that talent to be the guy in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But those guys are usually the guys, journeymen, and like pay their dues. and then they become great coaches. Maybe that's what we're seeing, just the birth of a great coach and a great marriage of Moore with Dakota.
I'm really excited for Prescott. I'm really excited for this Dallas offense. I think that the Dallas defense, too, can be very good. There's high hopes for them, but this Dallas offense, I mean, I'd go and get Michael Gallup if he's available. I'd go get Randall Cobb if he's available. Heck, I'd go get Jason Witten if he's available. I think all of these guys.
What about
Jarwin? Backup. I don't know. I'm not as sold on Jarwin.
I would not get Witten.
I would.
Only because there's that split at tight end, and yes, I know Witten got 66 of the snaps. I would stay away from the tight end position only because you don't know who's going to get that touchdown. Is it going to be Witten? Is it going to be Jarwin? They're too split right now. It's kind of like having the running back where it's like, oh man, this guy's going to vulture my touchdowns. Jarwin's going to be that guy. It's going to be the Witten touchdown vulture, so I'd stay away from Witten.
All right, Ricky, let's move into the final part of the podcast here tonight, and we are going to talk guys that we would look to add, drop, and then who are our main starts and sits for this week. So, Ricky, I'll throw it to you first. Who are you adding, who are you dropping?
So, I'm adding wide receivers like crazy this week, but I have actually a question.
Yeah.
For when it comes to add drops. I have a question for you, and I have a question for the MVP Nation out there, because I'm in a little bit of a bind in my personal league.
Okay.
Not the league you and I are in, but the league you used to be in and you're not anymore.
Sure.
I had Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
And I saw today that he is out for 4 to 6 weeks, which my first thought was, fuck. That's the first word to come out of my mouth.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
My question to everyone out there is, who should I pick up? And here are my choices. This is what's going through my mind right now. O.J. Howard, I'm not going to pick up. You know why. He don't have the guy to throw him the ball. He's just not going to. He had one catch yesterday, or last week, I should say.
He had 4 catches.
Could have been one. Basically, he did nothing out there. I think he had 1 point. Here, let me see.
He did. 4 catches, 32 yards, and he fumbled the ball.
Then that's what I'm thinking. Staying away from him. Here's my choices. I can either go with Vernon Davis, who on 4 catches had 59 yards and a touchdown. Yes, I know they said that Reed may be back this week, but there's a possibility he won't be back. Plus, Evan Ingram had a pretty good game against the Cowboys defense, so there's a possibility Case Keenum likes Vernon Davis, goes to him, he gets some points against Dallas. The number 2 guy I'm thinking about picking up, Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham had a pretty good week against the Bears. Yet again, touchdown dependent because he only had 30 yards on 3 catches, but he had a touchdown for 9 points. I thought about Blake Jarwin, but I'm probably not going to go with him because he's in the Jimmy Graham category of 39 yards, 3 catches, and a touchdown. But other guys who are available, if I'm going to go off of, I'm looking last week. Where's my positional ranking? No, I don't want that. Projected for this week. You've got O.J. Howard is available, like I said. Greg Olson's available. Austin Hooper, Kyle Rudolph, Jack Doyle, Noah Fant, Jordan Reed, Mike Gesicki, Dallas Goedert. Who do I go with? Like, what's a tight end I should go with? Because I need someone because I didn't have a backup tight end.
Is Darren Waller out there?
Darren Waller. Let me look that up. What team is he on?
Oakland.
I'm thinking Darren Waller. Who's that? He is not available. He is not. He is actually on. Whose team is he on? He's on someone's team.
Because
So
I would have gone with him.
He had 7 points in the last game.
He did 7 catches, 70 yards.
But that's where I'm at. Is what tight end do I go and pick up because I need someone for this week?
Well, I'm staying away.
And naturally, I'm dropping now Nick. So I had N'Keal Harry in my IR spot.
Yeah.
Now Hunter Henry's in my IR spot, and whoever I pick up is going to replace N'Keal Harry because AB is going to affect his numbers the most.
Totally. And he's hurt.
Well, yeah, when he comes back, though.
I know, but he's not coming back until like week 6 at least. So,
which is fine.
I would probably go Vernon Davis.
Okay. That's what I mean,
out of all the options you mentioned, Vernon Davis most likely.
Because like Kyle Rudolph didn't even have a catch.
He didn't even have a target.
I'm like, I don't even think. For a second, I was like, did he play in that game?
He did play. He did play. No.
Did you start him?
No.
Okay. The what's the word I was looking for? Not vindiction. Just basically how you said it. I was like, did he play him? I'm going to go ahead and fucking pick up Vernon Davis then. That's who I'm going to do. So if you guys think I should pick up someone else, obviously tell me because it's a huge help and I'll maybe pick them up instead. But right now I have to pick up somebody. So Vernon Davis, welcome to A Team Has No Name.
So this week I would be trying to pick up Michael Gallup. I think that he had an outstanding game. 7 catches, 158 yards.
Cowboys, right?
Yep, against the New York Giants. He's a great wide receiver 2 to Amari Cooper's wide receiver 1. Mm-hmm. I think that Michael Gallup is definitely a guy to go and get who will be consistent throughout the season because he started to have a really good second half of 2018 last year, and he was just a rookie last season. He's now in year 2. Hopefully, his breakout game is the first of a breakout season for him, and that continues to go well. One guy who I'm dropping, if you even had him, and I know that you probably didn't, you're going, Brandon, why are you saying this? Duh. Is if anyone had Kenyon Drake on their team, get rid of him. Because horrible game for Miami in general. When you lose 59-10, it's a bad day. But Kenyon Drake, a couple of seasons ago, he exploded. And people were like, who is this guy? He's doing so well. Then last year, he was horrible, and Adam Gase did not use him well. This year, Brian Flores, he's probably gonna use him. We'll see if it's any different. It's not. Kenyon Drake should be dropped off of every fantasy football team around the country.
Yeah, for me, you guys know who I'm going to say pick him up. And pick him up now. Pick him up often. And that's Hollywood, baby. Everyone loves Hollywood. Got to go with Hollywood Brown. Like, did I expect the coming out party for Marquise Hollywood Brown? No, I did not. But, man, I'm going to try to pick him up in all my leagues. The second guy I would try to pick up, wide receiver based, little Deshaun Jackson doing somersaults in the end zone. Had what, 2 touchdowns? He had only 2 touchdowns, right? He didn't have 3.
I think he had 150-some yards and 2 touchdowns as well.
In his return to Philly, the place where he made his name before he went other places, Tampa being one of them, pick those 2 guys up for sure because I find it funny that AB's having all this drama and his cousin goes out there in his first career game and then lights it up. Because Hollywood Brown and AB are cousins.
Did not know. Mm-hmm. Did not know.
Yep.
Another guy I'm picking up, Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins.
Oh, you changed the script a little bit, didn't you, from our live stream?
Well, you have to now, only because of the game he put up. Well, I think that's a huge fluke. That will never happen again. But Tyreek Hill's hurt.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill's hurt, and he's out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Did they officially say that?
I believe so. I think it was Shefty that tweeted it. So you've got Travis Kelce. You're going to have McCole Hardman. You're going to have Sammy Watkins. Those are going to be 3 main players on that offense that Patrick Mahomes is going to try to get the ball to. Yeah. So Sammy Watkins, I definitely would, just because of the situation, it's going to be favorable for him.
And one of the things I will say is I have his Twitter. Don't know his actual name because his default name is Rest in peace, Akita. But at P32400, who's in the MVP Fantasy League with us, I tweeted out, I love seeing Marquise Hollywood Brown having a great day. And then a gif of Will Smith from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air getting in the cab and whistling. And he said, love seeing Sammy Watkins having a great day also. And then a little bit later said, and Brandon was telling me he was a bad pick. LOL. So kind of throwing a little bit of shade at you, young Swan, which if you guys aren't following Brandon, I always feel like that. Like people will see my tweet and then tweet at me. And it's like, it's about fantasy. Tag Brandon in it too. Or they'll tweet at you. Our guy, what's his name? Is it Florex?
Zion Florex?
Zion. Where sometimes he'll tweet at you about baseball or something. It's like, I want to be in that conversation too. And then I'll interject myself into that conversation. It happens both ways. But it's like, that's just one where I'm like, throwing a little shade at Brandon. I like it because on that live stream, you were very vocal about Sammy Watkins.
I was. I said he's trash. And
you weren't his Jameis Winston levels like I am. You weren't that hot.
But you definitely deserve shade thrown at you when the guy goes off for 193 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game. Mm-hmm. That's hardly trash. But he'll never do that again. Just saying. So
he'll never do that again.
Ricky, moving on to who you starting, who you sitting this week.
Yeah. One guy I'm going to go ahead and start this week for sure is Tyrell Williams. If you didn't already, what are you doing? Had over 100 yards, a touchdown on 6 catches on the Monday night against Denver. There's a little part of me, like a little part that's like, it was Denver. It was Denver. Like Denver, I didn't think Denver's going to be that great of a team. I think in our previews, I had 3-4 wins for the Denver Broncos this year. But guess who he's going up against week 2? Kansas City, baby. That thing's going to be a shootout. Because guess who's not good? That KC defense.
They're better. Hold on.
They're better.
They're better than what they were last year.
They're better, but looking at what DJ Chark and D.D. Westbrook were able to do fantasy-wise, I think Tyrell Williams can do enough to get his. In fantasy, I'm talking about. Not saying Oakland's going out there and winning the game, Brandon. Let's not get crazy now.
Don't be silly.
I'm shocked the Raiders even won game 1. It's because they didn't have AB.
But good for them. The thing that I look at is, hey, if DJ Chark and D.D. Westbrook were able, and I think it was Westbrook's touchdown, that was Nick Foles, not Garner Minshew. But if Minshew could go out there and get receivers touchdowns, I think Derek Carr can get the ball to Tyrell Williams to fucking get him about, 15 points, 16 points like he had in week 1. So I'm going to go ahead and start him. We stay in the starting lineup for us, that is, he's one. Another one that I'm going to throw out there is it's a twofer. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Because Tyler Lockett, 1 reception, 1 touchdown, had 10 points. Yeah, that 1 reception lost me my game.
Did it? DK Metcalf, 4 catches. If he would have had a touchdown, would have had a fucking phenomenal game. But 8 points is not bad. They are going up against Pittsburgh this week, which, guess what? Pittsburgh looked bad. Start them. Start them right now because they're just going to do great things. Wilson's getting them the ball, baby.
So a couple of guys that I am saying you have to have in your starting lineup is I'm going to go to Oakland as well. I'm going to go Darren Waller, the tight end in Oakland. He had 7 catches, 70 yards on 8 targets. And John Gruden came out and said, this guy is something special. He played every single snap Monday night. He is going to have Jared Cook-like numbers from last season where Jared Cook had 69 catches, 900 yards, 6 touchdowns. Waller could be better than that. This Oakland team is going to ride Josh Jacobs. They're going to ride Waller. They're going to ride Williams. That's who Oakland's going to ride. Those guys are going to be the ones that get the points for the Raiders. The other guy that I'm going to be putting in the starting lineup did not have a good week last week, but I think he bounces back this week, is Kerryon Johnson. He's going up against the Chargers run defense, who just let Marlon Mack go and shred them a new one, literally 174 yards and a touchdown for Marlon Mack, and he broke off a 60-yarder. You take off the 60-yarder, he still had a great game. So I'm going with Kerryon Johnson there. I think that he will be able to have a better game. Only 6 points this last week. He gets double digits this week for sure. Can
I piggyback off of that?
Sure.
Derrick freaking Henry, or for my non-censored people out there, Derrick fucking Henry. Going up against Indy this week, Austin Eckler. Did you expect that week out of the Eckman? Because I didn't, and he's on my fantasy team that's in the league you and I are in. Derrick Henry went off against Cleveland, 84 yards, a tutty. I think he can do the same against Indy because Indy let Austin Eckler loose. 3 touchdowns in that game. Look out for Derrick Henry. Could have a breakout year this year with the start that he's having. Let's see how he plays then against Jacksonville week 3, but week 2, all you're worrying about is Indy.
Ricky, finally, who you sitting?
Ooh, who am I sitting? Jameis Winston for sure.
That's a given, but outside of him, because he's a weekly sit.
You know what? I'm actually going to go ahead and go. This may be one that I don't know if a lot of people are going to start him anyway this week, but go ahead and sit Mitch Trubisky this week. The Bears offense did not look good week 1. And guess what? They're playing Denver. And I know what you're going to say, but Ricky, first, you just shit-talked Denver like 5 minutes ago. Number 2, Oakland beat Denver. So what are you talking about? Here's the thing I don't like in that matchup. 1, I just said it. Bears offense did not look good against the Packers. Yes, the Packers defense is better this year. They proved that. And seeing Aaron Rodgers, just that smile at pregame when he was like, we got a defense, and that smile, I'm like, oh, he's going to have fun this year because he's got a defense. Here's the tricky thing about Mitch in Denver. Vic Fangio's on the other side. Who knows? Probably, I'm assuming here. Who knows what Mitch and Matt are going to do before they do? Vic Fangio. I don't think Mitch Trubisky is going to have a good time this week. I think it's going to be a very frustrating day, not because Denver's so good, but because Vic knows what the Bears are going to do before they even do it. And that's who I would stay away from is Mitch Trubisky.
My 2 sits that I have, I'm going to stay in that same game. I'm going to say sit Phillip Lindsay. He did not do well against an Oakland Raiders defense. He will not do well against the Chicago Bears defense that held down Aaron Jones to 39 yards in week 1. Sit Phillip Lindsay. I do not think that that's going to be a lucrative matchup for you. The second one, he ended up having some pretty good point totals in week 1. Thank you to the Detroit Lions defense who absolutely fell asleep in the fourth quarter. I'm going to say sit Kyler Murray. He ended up having good points. Kyler Murray's going up against a Ravens defense that pulled apart they didn't allow him to do anything. The Miami Dolphins. Kyler Murray is not going to be able to have success against the Ravens. They will come after him all day long. They'll pressure him all day long. Don't be surprised if Kyler Murray's throwing an interception that's returned for a touchdown on Sunday.
My second sit, James Conner. James Conner's after 1 week, not the same James Conner. It seems like he's mortal. After last season, going up against Seattle. Seattle, I know Mixon got hurt, and that was some of the big reason why he didn't have a good fantasy game. Good thing I listened to Sean and you, because Sean told me to do it. I was kind of iffy about it. Asked you if I should do it, and you said no. Start Marlon Mack over Joe Mixon. Totally glad I did that because it won me my league this week.
Well, they should just throw me on ESPN.
But, I mean, I'm sitting James Conner this week because going up against Seattle gave fits to. I get that Giovanni Bernard's not that good anymore. Joe Mixon got injured, so that was a part of it. But, I mean, that Seattle defense is tough. I know it's in Pittsburgh.
Remember that Seattle defensive front added Jadeveon Clowney.
Exactly.
That doesn't help.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the question I'm going to ask you. When it comes to a rookie that had a really good game, TJ Hawkinson, over under 13 points for him this week. He had 17 last week. Does he come back down to earth, or does he have just as phenomenal of a game that he did against the Cardinals?
I'm going to say he has 10.
Okay. So a little bit down to earth. Maybe like 100 yards, no touchdowns. Is that what we're thinking?
Or maybe a touchdown, 40 yards.
Okay.
Something like that. But I think he has 10. I think that Matt Stafford, because he's not like
Danny Amendola too. Like he had a good game too. I was surprised.
TJ Hawkinson is not like the tight ends Detroit has had in the past. TJ Hawkinson is not like a tight end that you would typically see. He's like a wide receiver.
Exactly.
He's built like a wide receiver,
he's
but
he's a tight end. He's not a tight end. He's a receiver.
He is. He is a receiver.
Or I'm sorry, a pass catcher is what they like to be called.
But he is. He's certainly not your prototypical big-bodied tight end who's going to block and do all this. No, he's going to go out and try and catch the football. So I think Hawkinson still has a decent day, but it's not what he did last week.
Yeah, and the other one that I was going to ask you about is his passing or his catching mate, Danny Amendola, because he had fucking shocked me too. Is it just because they played Arizona? Is that the thing?
I don't trust Danny Amendola. I don't trust him at all. I didn't trust him on the Rams. I didn't trust him on the Patriots. I don't trust him now on the Lions. The Lions will run through Matt Stafford, Kerryon Johnson, Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones, and Hawkinson. Danny Amendola is maybe going to have that week for you 2 or 3 more times throughout the season, but don't count on it.
So one thing I'm going to start this year is Ricky's sneaky start. We're going to call it Ricky's sneaky start of the week, which is one where it's like, sneak this start in. It's a wild card, may pay off for you, but it could be sneaky good for you. This week's the Jet defense. Going up against Cleveland, didn't look good against Tennessee. Jets looked pretty good against Buffalo, had a good fantasy performance, could repeat that this week against the Browns.
Again, remember, the Jets defense was the top scoring defense in all of fantasy football last season. They're trying to do that again this year.
I say sneaky because the Browns could wake up and be what we thought they could, or they can shit the bed like they did against Tennessee. Like, holy shit, Tennessee? I didn't expect Tennessee to get the win week 1.
Most people did not. Well, folks, that is going to wrap it up for us today. Thank you so much for watching and listening. This was, again, so much fun. We love doing this every single week. It's so exciting, and it's great to talk fantasy football. And for Ricky, he loves to talk Jameis Winston.
He just... I'm not going to get on it. Not going to get on it.
So that's going to wrap it up for us. Again, make sure you check out patreon.com. Become a patron for just $1 a month. You can help support our podcast, and you can come on a podcast as well. So for Ricky Widmer, I'm Brandon Swanson saying so long, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the podcast and hope you enjoy week 2 in the NFL.